welcome to our Reignite community, Women on the Move. As you all know, this is Women's Month, and we have a dynamic panel of local environmental justice, policy, and climate advocates here, and so we will be starting momentarily. And again, just thank you all for joining us today. My name is Erica Holloman Hill, affectionately known as Dr. E, here in Atlanta, and we're really excited for the words that our panelists will speak today. And I am very, very excited to host this Reignite community here at New Life. New Life is one of the first churches under Green the Church, Georgia, to enter into an agreement with GTC Red, which is the renewable energy arm of Green the Church, to install both solar, battery storage, and fast EV charging stations in the building out of decarbonization hubs, also known as resiliency hubs, here throughout Atlanta. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the pastor and the man of the hour, or rather the man of this house.
Not the man of the hour.
The man of the...
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to New Life. It is a pleasure to have you all here. This is the kind of church we aspire to be, is one that is open to the community, but also very, very aware that we play a part in being good stewards over the environment in which God has blessed all of us to inhabit. That is one of the passions and desires of our ministry and church. Dr. has already informed you of the programs that we're participating in, but I'd like to also add to that that we are also embarking upon a project here, a small piece of trying to reduce urban heating by redoing our entire parking lot with a clear coat paint that will allow us to reduce urban heating. We're introducing that to the community, and hopefully the city will buy into it, and we'll start to see some changes across the city as well. It is a pleasure to have you all here. I'm excited about our panelists. I've had the pleasure of meeting some others, and we are always honored and esteemed to be in the presence of Dr. Durley. You all give him a hand for all the work that he has been doing. So make yourselves at home. Just little housekeeping pieces. The cameras are there, and there. So please speak into the mics for those who are viewing online so they can hear and participate and get all the needed information that is there today. Members of my ministerial team are here, a few of my elders. I'd like to just recognize them as well. Elder Clarence Jackson, who is a part of our ministry team here, doing great work, and many of our other members are here as well and will be coming in. So back into your hands, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pastor Williams. I greatly appreciate it. And as Pastor Williams mentioned, we are blessed this morning to have Dr. Gerald Durley here, who will give the prayer and welcome for the event.
Oh, I'm doing a prayer, huh? Okay.
I was told.
Good morning. Somewhere I read, where two or three gather together, God would be in the midst. It doesn't take great crowds to make things happen. I'm excited. First of all, Dr. Hatari, thank you for allowing us to come here today. It means a lot. You're a progressive minister in this city. I remember 22 years ago when I started even thinking about climate change, global warming, and all of that. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. I was concerned about police brutality. I started in the civil rights movement in 1959. I'm 84 years old now, and I don't feel no way tired. I started with John and Andy and all of us together. So for me, my life was around civil rights and human rights and uplifting the black community. But about 22 years ago, I met a young lady that came to town. She came to town to help with black teenage pregnancy. She said, we've got to help black teenage girls and all of this. And I'm trying to figure out, why is this one white woman concerned about black teenage pregnancy? She said, it's a big thing, and she was just so excited about it. And she said, I'm getting ready to talk to a large group of white pastors headed by Joel Osteen to bring together money for young black teenage girls. And I listened to her, and she went on talking. And I was standing there, And I'd never met her before. I'm talking about how incidents like an incident here at New Life can change those who are already committed. And I got ready to speak, and one guy said, if you're going to speak, give us your PowerPoint. Now, I'm not technologically sharp, so I said, all right, I'm pointing to my power. I'm ready to talk. I'm pointing to my power. It never goes out. It's never So they started laughing, so went on into it. And she said, you know, I'm interested in environmental as well. She said, I'd like to introduce you to my husband. I said, oh, okay. Her name was Jane Fonda. His name was Ted Turner. That was 22 years ago. I was so dumb, I was calling it carbon monoxide in the air rather than carbon dioxide. But I've learned that there's such a closeness between the civil rights movement and the environmental movement. What we fought for in terms of equal rights and justice and equality, it's the same thing that we've been fighting for now in 22 years. I look at one of my former students right there. He was 18 years old when I met him. His kids are in college now, Daniel Blackman, when I was dean at Clark. And I'm looking at these young people now and those who are here now. And I met a guy named Ambrose Carroll who's talking about greening the church, because they said in the black community the church is always at the heart of what's going on. And I understood that because at that time I was at Ebenezer and I just installed a young man named Raphael Warnock at Ebenezer. And I said, all right, how does the church thrive? The church has always talked about freeing the mind, freeing the spirit, connecting to something greater than yourself, believing in something, always doing something for somebody else and for the environment. But the environment in the black community, we have trees and bees and ground and soil. That's not us. We've got to look at police brutality. We've got to look at injustice and inequities. But then I said, it's an inequity and it's wrong for what we're doing to the overall environment in terms of what we're putting into the environment. And that's when I got committed. And that's when I talked to Ambrose and I started talking about green the church. And he was talking about green the church. And to talk to green the church in the black community was kind of a waste of time. I felt kind of out there alone. So I'm so pleased that this panelist, I would love to stay and talk, but I'm speaking at noon downtown for my alumni association, the Big Blue, Tennessee State. That's why I'm in all blue, so they won't beat me up. But to come and talk now about climate change, global warming, the inequities that we face, what the crazy man in the White House is doing right now in terms of cutting back on the regional council of, the regional council. Daniel, what was the group you were? Oh, you were under Bush. Under Biden. He was over the Environmental Protection Agency for the entire Southeast. As soon as this other man got in, he fired him. When you step out for something that you believe in, when there's something important in terms of climate change, global warming, the inequities that we face, the kind of laws that are being passed right now, you got to be willing to step out. I said at one time I would not bend, I would not bow, I would not back up, I would not break. I would be standing out there, but many times you stand alone. Whenever you're standing alone and you're on a cause that's just, it's right. Right now, when I look at what we're doing in terms of, particularly in terms of food deserts in our cities, in terms of the kinds of crops that we're growing, it's a combination. I met a nutritionist today. A nutritionist today was talking about the food that we're growing. All of these things are interrelated. I'm convinced now at this stage in life that it's all connected. Climate change, global warming, civil rights, human rights, ethical and moral decisions that we will make about our life. We are creating a planet now for not the next generation. It won't be a next generation if we don't do something with this generation. So consequently, when we come to meetings like this, and particularly what's so important to me, well, I'm here because I like to think women on the move. Had it not been for women, we wouldn't be in there anywhere. I thank God that women would always be out on point. My wife, she was always, so we were married 58 years. She died 2 years ago, and I don't know what I'm doing now. I'm just up here rambling. But the women in the movement, yeah, we talked about Martin, we talked about, but Coretta was there. The women were the movement that when we would come back and we'd be standing there, they'd say, what did y'all do tonight? Well, it's kind of rough. It ain't as rough as it's going to be now. Here, women. So women on the move, we're going to need the kind of insights, the kind of wisdom, the kind of courage, the kind of stamina, the kind of knowledge that you'll be presenting, not only here. And it starts with small groups. I've met so many people over the years that say, we marched with Dr. King. If all the people that claim who marched with Dr. King, we'd have had millions out there. It wasn't millions. Today is a major march across America called the No Kings March. And I'm in the No Kings March, and a newspaper person came up and asked, Dr. Durley, several weeks ago we had a No Kings March, and we didn't see you out there marching. We know you like to march. And I said, well, I was marching with a real king 60 years ago, and I didn't see your mama out there with me. So what we got to do now, it's a new day. We got to march together. We got to march together. This is beyond gender. This is beyond race. This is beyond class. This is beyond denomination. It's beyond political party, because we'll all die together as fools if we don't work together as friends and come together. So I want to applaud the panelists, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, what you mean, because, and do not be discouraged with the size. When we went into Selma, when we went into Montgomery, there were not a lot of people there. When we walked out, we said, are we going to come back? We didn't know. But when the cause is greater than yourself, and what you're talking about and what you're sharing, and what we'll each take from this to go out, to make a difference. I don't go to a place unless I learn something, unless I say, how can I take what I've learned and go and do a better job? So today, it's not small. Green the church. Dr. E, I commend you as you get the Georgia chapter going. We will be doing much, 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 much more. And people move fearfully when they don't know. Fear is predicated upon ignorance. And we've got to lift the veil of ignorance so that fear will be reduced, so that we can step out and teaching our young people about how important the environment is. I never knew about what did I care about a polar bear that couldn't reach another glacier? What did I care about bees? But now the bees are tied into all of the things in terms of what we eat, what the climate that we have. Everything is interrelated, and we as humans must now get into that overall orbit, because we're destroying the environment. So I congratulate each of you, not congratulate you, I thank each of you for coming. It encourages me, because sometimes you wonder, should you keep on going? Yes, don't back up. Many times I wanted to just quit and walk away. Many times I said, and particularly in the last election, I just said, what good is it? But it's always good when you've got a good cause, you've got a good reason, you've got a good purpose, you've got a good direction, you've got a good heart, and you've got a good feeling that you will make a difference because you need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durley. And again, my name is Erica Holloman Hill, affectionately known as Dr. E, and I am currently serving as the State Director for the newly formed Green the Church Georgia chapter. Green the Church is a national organization that I'd like to kind of go over a little bit. I'm gonna have to, my glasses, boy, I tell you. So what exactly is Green the Church? It's a national initiative that is designed to tap into the power and purpose that you just heard Dr. Durley talk about of the African American church community. The goal is to expand the role of churches as centers for environmental and economic development and economic resilience. And you hear a lot now about resilient hubs and the technological things that make a resilience hub, that being the solar and the battery storage, but that's just a very small component. It supports the people. And so how are the people connected to the same resilience that we're talking about building and expanding throughout community? And so Green the Church nationally was established, as Pastor Durley mentioned, under the direction of Pastor Ambrose Carroll. And it's basically waking up the sleeping giant. There has never been a social movement in this nation without the leadership of the Black church. Green the Church nationally, which also guides us here in Georgia, stand upon 3 pillars. The first pillar being amplifying green theology, or rather green liberation theology. The second being promoting sustainable practices. And the third, building power for political and economic change. We're moving into the season of getting out to vote. We have some very key elections taking place. Something special happened last year here in Georgia. It actually made national news that's connected to affordability and energy here around our Public Service Commission. where we were actually able to flip 2 out of the 5 Republican seats to Democratic seats. And so we have that opportunity again coming up to let your voices be heard for this very important body that guides and makes decisions in terms of our utilities, along with other things, but most importantly right now where we're feeling it in our pocket becomes our utilities. Next slide. And so when Green the Church talks about amplifying green theology, the Green Church message emphasizes that Christians have a duty to protect God's creation. And specifically, we do this by working with church leaders and the congregation to develop and share resources for theological environmental teachings, meaning that it's rooted in the same book that we often talk and use, but where are the specifics around how do we care for God's creation? We also work to lift up many voices of the church members across the country who are already doing this powerful work. And you all had the pleasure of hearing Dr. Durley, Pastor Durley, speak this morning as one of those pillars. And for us here in Georgia, we're really blessed to have him as our leading ambassador, helping us to grow this work throughout the state. We're here in Atlanta. Atlanta gets a lot of focus, but we also know that there are other areas such as LaGrange, such as Brunswick, such as Savannah, such as Albany, Valdosta, that are dealing with environmental challenges throughout the state. And so Green the Church Georgia really is looking to expand throughout the state to make sure that we're amplifying this green theology. The second pillar, promote sustainable practices. So Green the Church works with the church leadership to make the physical building itself and the operations more sustainable, changing your lights out to more efficient lighting, making sure that you have the proper insulation, going through an energy audit that really becomes your roadmap for how you can reduce your energy cost and your energy consumption as a starting step. So from energy audits to healthy food programs, you heard Dr. Durley talk about it's all connected to how we are living really here on this planet. Academically, I'm a marine scientist and earth system scientist. That's what the doctor stands for. And we often talk about ecosystem and understanding that everything on this planet is connected. So we work with congregants and the leadership to literally green the church from the bottom up. Here we are blessed to have New Life host this RE-Ignite community event, again, as one of the first churches here in Georgia that have agreed to install both not only the solar technology, the battery storage, but the fast charging. As you heard Pastor Williams already speak about the amazing work that they're already doing in addition to this from the pavement to address urban heat. The West Atlanta Watershed Alliance is here today as one of the panelists with Janelle, and WAWA, which is what West Atlanta Watershed Alliance is often known for, is currently running a community-driven program called Urban Heat ATL that puts the power into the hands of community members to go out with sensors to actually walk in their own communities and capture that data so that we have a better understanding of the various urban heat islands throughout Metro Atlanta. And then lastly, these measures are all good for the environment, good for the bottom line, and good for the health and well-being of church members. Excellent. So the last pillar of Green the Church is to build power for change. As has been mentioned before, our churches have always been at the center for the fight, the struggle, the continued movement that's necessary to ensure that all of God's creations, especially us as humans, are in a place and a space of equity and able to all benefit from what God has created. And so our ability to create health and prosperity at the community level, we understand, is tied to what I like to call the layered cake. And we're going to come up through the layered cake. Your local and state municipalities, or rather your local city municipalities, moving up to your state, and then up to the federal. And so we know that a lot of federal things come down, shift between administrations, but the science has not changed. And the science around the warming of our planet and the impact from changes that we see every day now. If you're here in Atlanta, you notice when it rains, we get a lot of rain in a short amount of time. And now you see flooding happening in places and spaces that once didn't used to flood, especially some of the major expressways. I don't know if you've ever been out driving during one of these storms, and now you're noticing even the expressways themselves are flooding. And so even though things shift during administrations, the science is still very sound, and over 99% of scientists still understand that our climate has been impacted through our activities. Green the Church supports member churches in identifying how they can flex their shared political and people power to transform how our government acts on climate change, supports the green economy, and invests in resilient communities. Even though there was a lot of rollback from a lot of the funding that came through the Biden-Harris administration, certain funding still stayed true here in Georgia. One that allows for a rebate program known as Here and Her, and grateful to have our Georgia Energy Finance Authority here to table and speak about that very important program where you can get assistance in addition to what your own utility may be able to provide and support for you. The access to be able to make your homes more energy efficient, but also address your appliances. My grandmama, rest her soul, held on to that deep freezer. Ain't nothing wrong with that deep freezer, baby. That deep freezer's still good. Well, it might still work, but is it still working as efficiently as it could and should? So through this now state opportunity, we have the opportunity to even upgrade our electric appliances as well. So by connecting Black churches to the climate fight, it is our goal to increase the power and potential of the national climate movement. Again, as I say, even though the current political environment has shifted, the science has not. Even though our current administration has removed us from a lot of international policies, we notice that the rest of the world is still moving along in step with the science that talks and confirms, and even your own lived experiences confirm that something just ain't right. Next slide. So these are the affiliate chapters of Green the Church. Nationally, you all are here in Georgia. Again, last year was our inaugural year for our Green the Church Georgia chapter, but we also have chapters in the District of Maryland, the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, also known as DMV. I'm a graduate, proud graduate of an HBCU from this DMV, the real HU. But these are also some of the national sponsors that support the Green the Church movement and have been and continue to support throughout our efforts here. Next slide. So one of the ways in which we have our pathways that we use to get the message out is through our summits. Since our inception of 2015, we have held these national summits, the first being in 2015 through last year, where the National Summit was actually hosted here in Atlanta. Several of you came. Pastor Williams had the opportunity to actually speak at that summit. Our summit for 2027, we are taking this year off, will be held in Florida of next year, so we'll make sure that all of you all have an opportunity to know about this upcoming summit in 2027 and invite you all to come out and participate. So we can't do this work without you all, and there are two ways that we invite you all to connect to Green the Church. There's a pastors and clergy registry that's designed for the church leadership, And this registry provides the pastor and clergy with resources, recognition, community, and spiritual leadership tools that are at the intersection of faith and environmental justice. This turns their registration into a pathway towards how do you transform your own ministry and make it more environmentally sound. So when the pastors and clergy register, you gain access to the Green the Church community, which is a place that you have your own portal that you can connect with others across the country that have joined this ministry and registry. There are monthly calls that you are able to join and be a part of and have a deeper understanding of how other churches are moving forward in this movement. And these are some of the pastors. And here in the middle with Senator Warnock, we have Emily Carroll and Reverend Emily Carroll and Pastor Bruce Carroll. As you all heard Pastor Durley mention, the Green the Church was really birthed out of the Carroll ministry. They are ministers, brothers and sisters that have an international ministry, and out of this birthed Green the Church. So there's also space for everyday people to be a part of this movement. And we do this through our church membership as a revivalist. And we say, become a revivalist. A revivalist is someone who's deeply committed to the health of the Black church and the local community. A revivalist battles climate change and fights for environmental justice. A revivalist is an innovator, reducing our carbon footprint and building communal wealth with the most significant asset that's held by the Black community, which are our church buildings and the land that usually surrounds the church. And then lastly, a revivalist believes that the Black church should be responsible for the salvation of both people and the planet, according to 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. And so for those of you who are interested, if you scan the QR code that's here, for those of you who are online, you will be able to also access and scan this QR code that will take you to more information about how to become a revivalist as we ask you to join the movement. We are still fighting a good fight, a very good fight. And so I thank you all for the opportunity just to give some background about Green the Church. But now, most importantly, is why we are here, which is the opportunity to hear from some dynamic women who are on the move, not only here locally, but also internationally, as it relates to fighting for environmental justice, climate, and policy throughout the state. And so without further ado, I'd like for our panelists to come on up. And as we transition, I will give some background. So I'm just going to give some context for our panel, and then I'll let you all introduce yourselves. And as you introduce yourselves, anything you'd like to share, please do. And then we'll jump right into the questions for our panel today. So our panel, Women on the Move in the EJ Climate and Policy, brings together powerful advocates, organizers, and change makers who have spent their lives at the intersection of environmental justice, climate action, and systemic change. These are women who did not wait for a seat at the table. They built new tables, held the door open, and pulled their communities through. Our panel centers voices that are too often consulted but rarely credited. From frontline communities breathing polluted air and drinking contaminated water, to the halls of policy where decisions are made and futures are negotiated. The women on this panel have walked both worlds, and they carry the weight and the wisdom of that journey. Their work is not theoretical. It is rooted in place, in people, and in an unshakable belief that justice and sustainability are not competing goals. They are the same goal. They understand that climate change is not a distant threat, but a daily reality for communities that have long been treated as sacrifice zones. And they know that the policies meant to protect these communities often fail, and fail these communities, not by accident, but by design. This conversation is an invitation. It's an invitation to listen to those who have always known what needed to be done. The path toward liberation is not a straight path, not a straight line, yet each and every one of these 4 women here are lighting it mile by mile, community by community, policy by policy. And so I'd like to welcome you all to our panel of Women on the Move. And we'll start with you, Tanya, if you will please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya Hicks. I am the president and CEO of Power Solutions, electrical contracting and domestic manufacturing of EV chargers and battery storage. I'm celebrating my 25th year in business. And thank y'all. Thank you. And I posted it on LinkedIn when I shared this event. The black churches gave me my first shot. My first church was Hopewell Baptist Church in Norcross, and then New Birth and World Changers, and my company managed and maintained the Ebenezer Baptist Church since Pastor Warnock started. It started in 2006. So, I have a special heart for the pastors and the things that they have to do, and this is a great message for that. I'm also the co-founder and board chair for Partners in Action for Healthy Living. We manage the Weatherize ATL program for the city of Atlanta, and that's been quite interesting. That's where I'm gonna bring most of my expertise from, because normally in construction and in energy, I'm in heavy commercial and in industrial, and I developed a nonprofit as a way to help in the residential sector. And I also have a company called Women Do Everything. Don't y'all say nothing, because y'all know. No, but Women Do Everything. We help and women get into male-dominated fields, and we support the women that are there. And so I get stories like every day of the struggle to be in these industries, and energy and climate change are you just wouldn't believe. So through workforce development, contractor training, and also being a tradeswoman myself, I'm a journeyman electrician in the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So, it's like I've been out here a long time and got the scars to prove it. So it's an honor to be with you all today.
No? That's better? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Wright. I am currently serving as Environmental Justice Programs Manager for West Atlanta Watershed Alliance. My background is environmental science and city and regional planning formally. But I've been with West Atlanta Watershed Alliance for about 6, maybe plus years. I haven't really been counting very well. But we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that stewards a green space out of Southwest Atlanta, but we also steward watersheds. And so Utoy Creek, Sandy Creek, and Proctor Creek watersheds primarily. And we do this out of 3 teams. So I lead our environmental justice team. We also have an environmental stewardship team, environmental education, and all of this goes to really build up the quality of life of residents in that area, and looking at how all of these components of what's in a watershed, the built environment, the natural environment, socio-political environment, all of these play a role together. and watersheds themselves are I think it's good. Are multi-jurisdictional, so decision-making is shared across different leadership, and that is connected to each other in lots of different ways. And so within the environmental justice team, we have folks working on programs that are building out cohorts to really get folks to know what the source of issues are in their communities, around those issues as well. Programs that have to deal with green infrastructure workforce to build out more solutions on the ground that build out what a green economy looks like, and a few other programs.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Freyasia Young. I'm the founding consultant for Brown and Associates Environmental Group. We do policy research and analysis and legislative engagement. I like to say we are the bridge between community realities and the policy-making space. One of the things that we're actively known for is being a part of the GCEP coalition. That's the Georgia Coalition for Environmental Policy and Protection. In that space, we lift up community realities and bring them to the Georgia State Capitol. Also, in addition to the advocacy, a bit of lobbying as well at the Capitol.
Is it working? Oh, there we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Lena Sherman. I'm the Director of Lending for Freedman Green Bank and Trust. We are the Green Bank of Georgia. I've been trained to say that wherever I go. But we actually say that we have game. We cover lending for the state of Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi. We deploy our capital to create access easier to capital to do these upgrades to whether it's your residential, commercial, and also we fund developments that are going to build green. So in that space, and it's been a new space for me. I've been in this space for about 2 years. Traditionally, I come from traditional banking. So coming over and learning about the challenges that there's been in getting people to understand that energy efficiency isn't a want, it's a need. And trying to train people that even though if you need to spend a little bit of money up front to do those changes is necessary. So that's been a new challenge of mine. And on top of being with Freedman, I also co-founded Grows of Excellence, where we are supporting about 500 grows throughout Atlanta Metro every year, and just giving them access. So now that I'm learning about this space, I'm exposing them to this space too. So I'm glad to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
All righty. Well, we're going to get right into yes, we can clap for that. Some very huge accomplishments. Well, we're going to go ahead and get into the panel discussion, and I'll ask this question of all of you. So, what does climate change actually look like in the communities that you serve, and who is most invisible in these communities?
For me, the missing middle is most invisible. You know, I deploy capital. So there's a lot of programs for people that that we consider financially challenged. And then the ones that are not financially challenged, they pay for their own stuff. So the missing middle are the people that we don't create programs for, that they may not have the cash up front to do the changes that are necessary for their homes, but they can make a payment. But traditional big banking does not recognize energy savings as an asset or a risk determinator when you're underwriting. So that's been a new challenge of mine, how to create those programs where I can look at the capital that I'm deploying is actually reducing your energy bill, which gives you more capital to pay a small loan. So, you know, those type of things have been a great challenge. The other challenge are getting qualified people to do the work, especially in the rural areas of Georgia. I've been really challenged with that because we know uncle, brother, cousin, reverend pastor been fixing my house forever, and he has not been officially trained or qualified to do the work. And, you know, we want to make sure not only are we giving you capital, but the people that are doing the work on your home are qualified to do so. So now I have to pivot a little bit about, okay, now I need to invest in workforce development. So those have been my challenges in those communities.
I would say that I agree to the same thing with the weatherized ATL. We have so many people on, well, they weren't on an official list, but a list of people that couldn't qualify, because for most programs, you have to be below 80% AMI. So with Partners in Action for Healthy Living, we created a program called Healthy Home Services, so we can provide that. I actually call Lena. I call Lena for a lot, but I actually call Lena like for people that need it, because when you go to their homes or you talk with them, they live in check to check. They just are not poor. And in Atlanta, if you're gonna live in Atlanta, you got to make a little money to live in Atlanta. So it's kind of almost unrealistic to think that you're going to help a lot of people or convert a lot of people to sustainable practices if they can't get that support. So we you know, our 501c3, we set up a for-profit company under there, and because I'm a, you know, we consider ourselves contractors that came into this space. It's like, even though we're mostly in commercial, a lot of the residential we could see like from afar, like, okay, well they just need structure. They just need this. So under PAL, we created the PAL Contractor Connect, where we help the contractors with contractor training and development, and also help them get BPI certified. They just needed to know what to do. They needed to know the job opportunities. They also needed to know how to service, because when you're dealing with homes, it's more tedious kind of stuff, because you're dealing with the consumer, and then commercial is like you're not. So it's almost helping them to understand how they can serve a different demographic. And it's been very, very successful. We trained 19 contractors, and I've had quite a few more since this administration. You know, because you gotta be, when a lot of things are happening in the commercial sector, the bigger contractors come to take our work. So residential is an untapped market for a lot of them for when that happens. And so I've been working with a lot of contractors on that. And when you speak contractor, you know what can help them understand why this is attractive. And so I know a lot of people say, oh, it's a contractor shortage. It's not really a contractor shortage. It's it's access and also understanding. It's like they don't understand how to, because, you know, they thinking, this is a house, this is all. But then when I show them the numbers for the larger residential contractors, they like, okay, well, hold on. Show us how to do them type of numbers, because most residential contractors do a little over $1 million a year, and so it's all in the adjusting. But also, I think the shortage is, I don't think it's a resource shortage. I don't think it's a money. It's a shortage of people that want to help other people. People focus, whether they focused on the money or they focus on the popularity and the fame, saying, I'm the first, I'm this, I'm that. It's like, we need people that really want to help people, because those are the people that'll make a pathway for you to get where you need to be, and also help you understand how you can help other people. So those are the issues for me.
I would say in my community, climate change looks like extreme heat. And one of the things, I live in the most energy burdened city in DeKalb County. And so when we have very high temperatures, it's exacerbating an already like desolate situation. We have to run our air conditioners continuously, and we already are paying more than 10% of our income on our utility bills. Who I see that's left out of this environmental space from my vantage point is real estate agents. I for whatever reason, have come into close contact with real estate agents in the state of Georgia. And like Tanya said, women do everything. So I'm a environmental educator as well. Educating them on things such as energy burdens, because they don't know what energy burdens are, but you're selling these homes. My best friend is my current agent as I'm looking for a place to live, and I pulled up the archive of the EJ screen and CJS as we're, in front of these places in these communities, and I'm looking at different things, and she's like, wait a minute, you can do all that? Yes, let me teach you how to do it. Because it just makes, and I'm telling this to her, it makes you that much better as an agent, but also the majority black families that you're selling to, it puts that protection in place for them as well. So she knows a little bit about energy efficiency, but she was completely unaware of the programs that exist through the state that she could actually help those homeowners to get. So I think that from my vantage point, not only her, my mother's a property manager in New Jersey, and still like the awareness is just not there.
I think for the communities that we serve at West Atlanta Watershed Alliance, it looks like many different things. And so something that came to mind when I looked at this question, we lost Asada Shakur, and I read her autobiography. And in reading that, a word that comes up over and over again in that writing is struggle, the word struggle. And so climate change, I think it's hand in hand with struggle, and just how we're articulating that in community in different ways. And so in Southwest Atlanta, in particular to the watersheds that we steward, there's this reality of a combined sewer system throughout the whole nation, a lot of urban areas. And so this combines sewer and stormwater together. And there has been a separation of these structures that has improved how flooding has exacerbated throughout communities. But despite that, primarily in black and brown communities, we still see more and more flooding events, and we see them in more extreme ways in the neighborhoods. And so urban heat is something that also is paired very closely with that, in terms of how that struggle is also cumulative across many other struggles. And particularly within Southwest Atlanta as well, it's really kind of our focus is building out what power might look like around focusing on what issues can be, and issues and solutions can be created from those. And so kind of back to that term of, and the way it's used, it's really more so how it's formulated around what a fight is and what it means. Build education and a will to keep across all of the work that we do.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Any follow-up comments?
One other thing I think is missing is a lot of our young people. Under Partners in Action, which we acronym PAL, we created PAL Posts for college students, and we have EcoWell teens. We do a lot with Mays High School, and EcoWell kids. We have several middle schools, and what we realized is you have to really start young to help. They help their parents understand, because if your mom is struggling or your parent is struggling trying to make ends meet, they ain't thinking about no climate change, but what the kids do understand is that the bills are getting higher, their parents are being frustrated, there's no money to go do this, there's no money to go do that. So I think the demographic for us is, we found out it was the kids, and it's like if we can help the children to understand how they can support and what they can do today and also in the future, it's going to make it better for everyone. But you have to, what I found out being in this space, because I went to Central State, I majored in mathematics and minored in computer science before I went through 5 years to become a journeyman. So it's like, I understood from a technology, clean tech perspective, and I also understood from the trade perspective a lot that's missing. And a lot of the times you have people in climate that they have, you know, they've been to school, they've done all these things, got all these titles, and they speak too high for the average person. And it's like my grandma used to say, you got to put it where the goats can get it. So you got to put it down low. Because I, you know, as a kid, I was in the house. I was smarter than a lot of people in my own family, and they be like, you're not communicating if they can't understand you. So I think sometimes we need to change the way we speak about these things and break it down to grant, you know, to help them understand.
That's so important as we talk about how do you communicate these very scientific issues around climate and connect it to the lived experiences that we experience every day because of these impacts. And this is for all of you all. Please answer however you feel. Where do you find yourself in conflict with allies, institutions, or even your own community at times? And what does that tension reveal about where power actually lies?
Tell the truth, stay in the church.
I'll take this one first. So as a millennial in policy, right, policy is a very old system. And the system runs as a very old system, and it runs the way it was intended to run. I find myself in conflict with allies, with opposition, whoever it be, around the way we think about policy. And I open this with saying I'm a millennial because we just have this sense of urgency on us that some people just don't have. And being in a political space or being at the Georgia State Capitol, I hear a lot, well, you know, policy takes time. Georgia likes to do things in increments, and that's great, but people's lives are at stake, so we don't have time, right? And so, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's challenges, it's healthy dialogue, rather, because they give value, and I give value as well. What I'm tired of hearing now is policy takes time, because if we had no other example, we have, and I know this is like, you know, it's New York, but we have Zohran Mamdani who said, I'm gonna get universal child care, and he did it in 8 days. And so it's, for me, the power lies in the way we think about things.
So, yeah, for me, it's the same thing. It's the understanding, but with my allies, and I love you, Jifa, I really do. But it's the understanding of what my contractors go through when they're trying to deploy federally and state regulated grants. You know, understanding what mom and pops go through, and that they're not, I'm not gonna say not willing, but not always capable to meet such high requirements and go through all of these different things before they throw their hands up. And if they throw their hands up, then that affects my community, because now I don't have anybody to go help my community with these upgrades. So understanding now that I need to be at the table when we start coming up with these helping the community options, so they can understand that if you are requiring these contractors to do things that's not in their normal makeup, they gotta, every day that they're on a computer listening to you know, instructions, they're missing money. And there's only gonna be so many times they're gonna be willing to do that. And putting them through hoops is not helpful. So understanding that mindset before we even deploy the capital would help. So that's been a great challenge of mine. And just the understanding, when I walk into a room and I say I'm from Freedman Green Bank and Trust, people wanna open up an account with me. And I'm like, well, no, I'm a green bank. Well, yeah, I don't care what color the bank is. So just, you know, getting people to understand that there are different type of capital available. There's oftentimes that I'm brought into a room to talk about policy and different things that are needed, but I'm the only finance person in the room. You don't have enough finance people in the room. You need more CDFIs, you need more green banks, because with flexibility and understanding of what's needed for our community, I can write a program for that. I can go get money for that. I know we've heard horrible things about the money that came out through, I'm not going to name all the federal, but all the restrictions. But there's philanthropy that we get money from. We get capital from multiple sources that allows me what I call make sense underwriting. So those are my challenges with my allies, to understand what I can do and bring me to the room so I can hear what the need is.
So a challenge that I've seen across many different types of partners, from more, folks, allies on the ground, kind of see more on the same, I guess, level, for lack of a better word, versus those who do hold more power in decision making. A lot of that is a lack of consensus around what it really means to, thank you, to be in community, but also what community engagement looks like. There's a lot of institutions in which they've already built and constructed a level of community engagement that is sort of checking a box in terms of what is meeting a need. And so that looks like a lot of different things. Maybe it can look like a post on a newsletter or social media, but there's a diverse level of who has access to those different spaces, and that isn't always representative of young ones who are often silenced, as Tanya mentioned earlier, in those spaces, elders who might need more paper or in-person experiences, and really everyone in between. So there's lack of consensus on kind of what that community engagement might look like, but also I think having the process as well involving the full way. And so in a lot of community-driven planning tools and methods, bottom up is preferred, and really allowing community to make those decisions. An example of what that can look like is participatory budgeting or participatory actions, in which there's knowledge of resources already available, and we're utilizing the knowledge and expertise of that community to really determine what they would want to use specific funding sources for. And so, yeah, I think having all of these structures in place that kind of undo systemic structures are thinking about ways in which to do this a little bit better is what can be improved a lot in terms of some of these relationships.
This was a big question for me, because I don't want y'all to think I got conflict with everybody. But you can, when you look from a different view, you can see everything. I don't know if how many of y'all watched The Landman, but it's super good. It talks a lot about what we do. But the widow that was looking for millions of dollars, the billionaire, God told her, he said, I can't do business with you because you're not a snake. He said, and snake take advantage of the prey. And so, tell such and such to talk to me because I need to talk to another snake. But there are also hawks. Well, hawks eat snakes. But hawks also operate from a higher view where they can see everything. And when you're in an environment where you have to be a hawk and you work with other hawks, and because at first I couldn't understand, in nonprofit, I was like, oh, we doing all this stuff. I didn't realize how competitive it was with nonprofits. And then you're thinking, well, why? Well, what's wrong? Well, why they don't want to work with you? And then I realized some smaller company organizations, they'll pray. And if they know that you're in a position to take something from them, they only doing what they can do. So when they box you out, or they don't help you, or they don't want to work with you, it's because they're trying to protect themselves. So I had to understand as a hawk, because in the industry I'm in, and I have to be transparent, Georgia Power, Southern Company supplier, because I do more in Alabama Power, but that's a whole nother story. But the thing is, you have to be really, really tough to compete. And sometimes our delivery when we come across, it's like, you here to take, when you really not, you here to help. And so sometimes I'm in conflict with some other organizations because they don't understand the way you move. Giants move in a way that we don't see competition. If we want something, we're going to get it. And so even when it comes to like a Georgia Power or something like, I understand what they are. I understand what corporations are. They have no soul. So when we like, oh, they don't care. No, it's an entity. It does not care. You have to identify people in that organization that you can get to, that you can talk to, and to help you navigate that. So I have conflicts sometimes with some of the corporations, but I'll find somebody. I'm gonna find somebody. You know what I mean? It's like you telling me, no, you ain't the right person. You know what I mean? You're gonna find somebody. But when we're out here doing this work, whether it's our organizations or anybody, you have to understand where people come from when they're competing. Because I don't see no limits, but that don't mean limits are not there. Dr. E has helped me Dr. E was like, let me talk you down. You know what I mean? Dr. E done talked to, like I said, Lena done talked. It's like, because I had to understand, like, what is going on? I don't feel like we have enough organizations to meet the need of the community. We need about 100 pals. You know what I mean? We need a bunch of Wawa. It's like, but we got to see the pie as bigger. We got to see if we're going to save the world, we got to think about the world. Yeah, so.
No, thank you. And so one final question, and for all of you, because we've talked a lot about the challenges, we've talked a lot about what climate change actually looks in our community, which also kind of highlights some of the challenges. What does genuine solidarity look like across race, class, and geography? And what do you need us, both physically here in the room and online, to do? And I'll say that again. What do you need us to do when we walk out of this room?
Can I start? Yeah. Well, I think genuine solidarity is when everybody brings what they got to the table. You saw that during the civil rights movement. When you had a lot of the women cooking and making breakfast for the kids. They weren't sitting there talking about who didn't feed the kids. They got together to feed the kids. That's what I think. It's like everybody operating at that level, what they can bring. Even H.J. Russell, he wasn't out there marching, but he was making money in construction and funding things. So I think operating in your lane. And then another thing, I don't know if it's really like, if I should have said that in the conflict, a lot of workforce development programs are starting up with no true pipeline for these people to work. These kids are not lazy, they exhausted. And so why keep coming to a program and you just gonna get a certificate and be part of a ceremony and a photo op? So if what I would want people to do is hold these workforce development programs accountable for the jobs, because if you're not connected to the jobs, it's not going to help anyone. What we did, because I'm in the union, so when you're a union, the union controls the pipeline and controls the contractors with the jobs and the workers. So that's why they're able to operate. So with PAL, when we did the pilot for Weatherized ATL, well, we control the pipeline, we control the work. So I went to the contractor and said, hey, you want to work with us? I need you to hire these 2 people. But we also took responsibility to pay those people. We got that money from Google to pay these people to get their training. Then I went to South Face and say, hey, I need y'all, I need to buy X amount of BPI certified, classes. And then we connected, and we also got not only the students, the workforce development participants BPI certified, we got the contractors BPI certified too. It's like people want, as a journeyman myself, and this is also bad in the union too, but journeymen are not taught to teach other students. And it's a forced relationship. I got to work and keep up with this little knucklehead over here. You know, that's in their mind. That's what they thinking. So it's like, I'm not incentivized, I'm not paid to train, and that's why a lot of them are not taught. So I would say hold these workforce development people, because they keep getting the same, and they keep getting the same money. It's like, why they keep getting the same money? It's because the bigger corporations, they just want to write a check and say, we did our part. They don't want to say, oh, X amount not getting a job. So when they say, we need hundreds of thousands of electricians, these people out here, they ready to work. All these technical schools, they won't, so many people graduated, can't get no job. It's because there's a pipeline problem. And the little workforce development, they get them the certificate, they go to a company to try to work, and the people laugh at them because it's not a real certification. That's why we went and got the BPI certification, so you can be of value to a company that want to hire you. So I know that was a little long, but I could talk about that longer.
I think that's why I love Tanya so much. We think so much alike. As soon as she opened her mouth, I said, oh, she took what I wanted to say. So, but yeah, it is really about making sure for me that there is access. And in my lane is access to capital, educating people what that looks like in the green space, in the CDFI space, where they're not in community banks, where they're not usually going to access this capital, and understanding that you can combine free money, because in my community, that's what they want in order to do something that's going to improve their lifestyle. They want it for free. Not understanding that spending a little bit up front will get you freedom. So Freedman Bank is that's why the name is in there. But what I would like everybody to do, like Tanya said, is not gatekeep. You know, if you have access, if you know something, share that something. You know, I'm growing and learning in my space. I was just supposed to be doing loans, right? Now I'm doing workforce development. I have Zoe here today, who's part of Girls of Excellence. She's one of our mentees. She said she wanted to be an environmental scientist. I was like, come on in the room. So just making sure that if you have tools and you have access, that you're feeding that forward. Don't be afraid to share your knowledge. And we're all hawks up here, and we're not looking to take. And a lot of times I get, well, you're so intimidating. No, I'm passionate about the work I do. And so I have to be aggressive. I have to show up at the table. Sometimes we got to build the table, you know? So that's what I would charge everybody with is, you know, use the tools you have to help build others. Don't just build that house and be boxed in.
So, yeah, what solidarity looks like, and for sort of what I've witnessed, I think it means to trust in practice across all of the different types of communities, and kind of similar to what I said earlier, just like I don't know if this works. Okay, there we go. And also trusting and being on a similar lens in terms of the data that is utilized from community and how it's assessed. Looks like to build feasibility studies and have systems in place that are not performative, that are not extractive, and building out, having that structure in terms of what it looks like to rethink what economies might look like. And so there's, you know, traditional economies in which that are typically performative and can be extractive, but maybe thinking about what cooperatives and solidarity economies might look like. So some of that solidarity really kind of comes from also relying on the knowledge of other folks, because I might have expertise in one area, but I know and build relationships with folks who have and do fights regarding reproductive justice or indigenous work. And all of this comes together, is intersectional in terms of what the future of that solidarity might look like. And in terms of some of what I think is the main takeaway, I wish everyone to kind of do, I guess, more of the homework, is to think about intergenerationality a little bit more, to build out what that might look like in your own personal life and experience. I think there's a lot of different ways of being in relationship with people, and it can start small. It can be as much as reaching out to your niece or nephew, someone in a different generation from your own, learning something that you've never known about that person, even though they're in your family and might have seen them for years, kind of been in those family reunions together, but kind of, you know, getting to know an individual deeper. And I think things like that, spaces like that, will help us to do the same in other spaces. So building out what deepening relationships look like across either communities that we work in.
Solidarity, I feel like we won't reach a point of solidarity, especially across race and gender, if we don't do two things, and that is removing capitalism as it exists today, and then also getting rid of the patriarchal systems that we live in. Otherwise, and I'm normally optimistic, but just being in this policy space, I don't see it, because capitalism breeds individualism. And in order for us to be in solidarity, we have to, like Tanya said, we have to care for one another again, right? And we have to bring what we have to the table, but we're such an individualistic society that we put ourselves first, we put our family unit first. For women, we put our community first. Well, and for men too, we put our community first. But the first thing is I. So how do you have solidarity when you're waking up with the perspective of I? And then the patriarchy. Once we remove that and put a matriarchal system in place, and understand when I say matriarchy, I'm not saying that we just remove men from the top of the hierarchy and place women, but matriarchy centers children at the top. Once we do those two things, then I feel like we can really have a conversation about solidarity. But until we do that, we're just going to be, you know, contributing to the same machine. Solidarity is nice, but we do have to have those real conversations about what capitalism is doing to us and what the patriarchal system is doing to us as well. Something that I implore everyone to do is to read. Read. It could be an audio book. It could be, you know, paper and print, whatever you have to do, read. Because history it's already been recorded, right? I think that there's a book that kind of explains the times that we're in now. It's written by George Orwell. I think it's either like 1985 or 1984. Yeah, and it kind of explains where we are now. But I implore everybody to read. Like, read at your leisure. Instead of pulling your phone out, say, let me find a book that I can listen to, right? They made it easy for us to now read. We can listen to it. Because nothing is new, right? We've already been through this. Like, so read. So that you can better address challenges, especially in the moment that we're in. We see all of this federal hoopla that's coming down on us. And I feel like once we get over this, then we can start to leap towards the opportunity that comes after this.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I think also now in our meetings, as we open our meetings, we need to and I did this yesterday in a ACOR Accelerator meeting, and that's the American Council on Renewable Energy, is we need to recognize we're at war. And, you know, it's a lot of our soldiers are injured and have fallen. And it's not going to be the same anymore. What has happened is really devastating. Being in business 25 years, I've been through, Bush when we were at war, and in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and it's a totally different thing this time. And I think we all need to prepare for that and operate like we need to not only conserve, but we also need to support one another as a community. Growing up, I didn't know till I moved to Atlanta that people bought like plants, like a plant store. I know that just seems crazy, because you just picked the piece of the plant from somebody's house. You didn't go to no store and buy the plant. And you're just like, oh wow, because we didn't have like a Lowe's or Home Depot in Meridian where I'm from, so you weren't buying no plants, or you bought seeds or something like that. But it's like, as a community, we can still help each other with little, and we're really at a time right now where we need to lean on each other more than we ever had before. Because I travel with Women in Tech Global, where we do tech diplomacy in other countries, and the next country that we're going to is South Africa. We're going to Cape Town, and when you talk to the men that are in charge, they don't care whether women are included or considered in technology, and that runs our lives right now. So I just think helping each other. I don't know how many people gonna read, but at least watch The Landman. Watch The Landman, but also The Gilded Age. I don't know if people heard of The Gilded Age, but I've been telling everybody we in the Gilded Age, and that's where the powerful are getting more powerful. Politicians are being bought. The labor is being squeezed and pushed down. If you look at that Gilded Age, it's like, oh my God. Which after the Gilded Age comes the Progressive Age, where we came up with all the different agencies and stuff to help with social services and stuff. So, I ain't no historian or nothing, but it's like I just recognize the patterns, like you said, as well. This is a time right now where the wealth gap is getting wider and wider, and it's not just race, it's also the haves, between the haves and the have-nots. And when I sit in circles and in these meetings, with these multimillionaires and billionaires, it's really not a thought that poor people need help. It's really not a thought that, if we do this, it's gonna hurt somebody else. And that has, it's like I don't know what we can do about that, but when people, all these corporations and different wealthy people are donating to these campaigns, they only thinking about themselves. They only thinking about the market and how they can make money, but not so much as not enough of them are thinking about how it's going to affect the working class or the working poor or people that are homeless. And I just found out it was on WSB TV that 30,000 families are in these extended stays and hotels in Metro Atlanta. 30,000. I was like, 30,000. So what we're doing it seems like really big, like a big task. But like my grandma said, it's gonna take many hands.
Many hands.
And I'm in, my family's in agriculture, so whenever I remember going out, Uncle Abel, where you want me to be? Where you want us to be? He'll say, pick a row.
Stay in the middle of it.
And when you get in that row, about a couple of hours being on by, you turn around, you see how far everybody had come together. But that was the way to knock the work out. And so I challenge everybody to pick a row.
So let's give our panelists a round of applause. And I thank you all. Thank you to those of you who are joining online. And I say welcome to our moment. Welcome to our movement. These are our women of EJ, climate, and policy that are always on the move, and I thank you. So on behalf of Green the Church, you all can just stay for a moment. Green the Church Georgia, again, we just established our Georgia chapter. We'd like to say thank you. And but more importantly, thank you to our supporting organizations that are here. We will be leaving here and have an opportunity to go and sit around and learn and have more information. And so we have SunPath Solar, the Georgia Solar Energy Association, Self-Help Credit Union, Electric Vehicle Association of Georgia, Better Tomorrow Solar, Freedman Green Bank and Trust, Georgia Energy Financing Authority through the Home Rebate Program. We have our Clean Cities Georgia Partnership for Clean Transportation, along with Electric Black Futures. And so now we will move. We do have lunch provided, but we also have something very special because my grandmother said you can't do what you can't see, and you don't know what you don't know. And so we have, thank you to the Electric Vehicle Association, we have some EV cars that are here that people will have the opportunity to see up close and personal, but also have the opportunity to test drive if you're interested. Here at New Life, you all already have chargers, and I noticed that some of our EVs that are here already are charging. But if you wanted to actually see what an EV car look like, we have some available. And thank you again to Electric Vehicle Association of Georgia for providing that. And so without further ado, thank you to those of you who are joining online. We are now going to break for lunch table. And for those of you who are